Helping Seniors Television, all about improving quality of life for seniors. If you're a senior, know a senior, or plan to be a senior, then this show is for you. It's all about helping you develop your own aging plan so you can age actively and with dignity. Helping Seniors Television from the Helping Seniors Network of information, education, and resources.
I'm Kerry, Fink. Welcome to this edition of Helping Seniors Television. This is the opportunity we have to get together to inform, educate, and connect you and those who you love and care for to resources and information that's going to help you as you develop your own aging plan. As a 100% local to Brevard County 501c3, that's a fancy word for nonprofit, Joe Steckler established our organization after he successfully built up the Brevard Alzheimer's Foundation and created Joe's Club there. And he said, Kerry, there's more work to be done for seniors because not all seniors are challenged with cognition, but every senior runs into a lot of things that they need to know about. So the whole purpose of this is to kind of bring you up to speed on the things that are going to help you develop your own aging plan. And so with that as kind of a backdrop, I'm excited today to share this TV program with a great friend of the Helping Seniors organization. And we're really going to get into some stuff that you want to know about because it will affect anybody who's really 65 or older, and that is the term Medicare. And so grateful to have a great friend of the Helping Seniors organization, Vicki Moore, with Moore Insurance Solutions with us today. Hey, Vicki, how are you?
I'm great, Kerry. Thanks so much for having me today.
You know, one of the things that I think is fantastic about having the opportunity to us to visit today is that there is so much, I think, information that floods the marketplace about Medicare. Most of us understand that Medicare is something that we get involved with when we turn 65 for most of us. But then there's always confusion because that Medicaid word comes up and we're not sure which is the right word. But today in particular, I want to talk about Medicare, and I want to get into the nuances of something that I think we all need to know more about. That's the difference between what we call traditional Medicare, where maybe you have a supplement, and then what they call the Medicare Advantage plans. And I want to kind of like, if it's okay with you, kind of like back up a notch. I don't want to even assume that we know exactly about Medicare other than it's something we're supposed to have when we turn 65. So maybe we start there.
Okay. Well, and actually, if it's okay, I just want to do a little quick what you originally spoke about, the difference between Medicare and Medicaid. Just a really quick differentiation is Medicaid is always going to be income-based.
Okay.
And Medicare is, like you said, when you typically or oftentimes I should say, you age into Medicare, age 65. But then some people younger than 65 can have Medicare for different reasons. It could be due to ESRD, which is end-stage renal disease, or also it could be due to Lou Gehrig's disease or disability, Social Security disability. So those are the different qualifications for Medicare. And then, so as you said, we're talking about Medicare today, not Medicaid, but there are some instances with Medicare where people can qualify for both, which that's maybe on another day. We can talk about that, but yeah.
Well, I think one of the things that's important for us to get into is because so often people will sit at home and they'll channel surf, and you'll see maybe one of your favorite actors on TV, and he's or she is touting like, call this 800 number on the bottom of your screen, give us your zip code, and we're going to tell you about all these extra benefits that you're eligible for. And I'm sure they mean well. I'm not casting any aspersions, but when you end up calling that 800 number, you're calling, I don't know, a call center in Iowa or someplace, and they're going to go do this internet search and try to say, okay, you're here. I never have understood why people would do that as opposed to contacting their neighbor, Vicki Moore, here locally in Brevard County and saying, okay, help me sort this out. Because, it's difficult if you're sitting not here and you're looking at a map of Brevard County and saying, well, it looks like there's a good doctor for you in Titusville, and Titusville doesn't look that far from, I don't know, Cocoa on a map, but it really is in real life. And that's why it's really important that you get somebody local who understands all the nuances of this, but also knows the geography and what's reasonable in our area. And so, Vicki, when you see those national ads, aren't most of those for Medicare Advantage plans? Or they're saying like, oh, if you sign up with us, we can get your eyeglasses or things like that. Talk a little bit about how all that what all that razzmatazz is we see on TV.
So as an independent local agent, it can be frustrating when I meet or run into somebody, typically a senior who has called that one of those 800 numbers. And as you say, they're not all bad, but they just don't typically have the local knowledge, which can help people make a good decision. And so oftentimes it's people that have used those 1-800 numbers that are not in a great situation. Maybe the doctor that they've used forever, they cannot see that doctor because they've been put into a plan that doesn't accept that doctor. And there's lots of, maybe there's certain plans that maybe their benefits just aren't as strong as other benefits. And these 1-800 number, these call center folks just don't always have the best answers. So I agree with you. I think it's definitely to their advantage to use somebody that is local, that knows, the ins and outs of the local providers and the plans and things like that.
So if we break it into, is it fair to break it into kind of two categories when we talk about Medicare? When we talk about a Medicare supplement, that's for somebody using their original red, white, and blue Medicare card and then choosing the benefits or choosing to supplement maybe to help with some of the costs of that. And then there's this whole other category called a Medicare Advantage plan. And there's a lot of people competing in that world too for your business. And I guess maybe that's the first place to begin is all these people are competing for your business. You're the consumer, so it makes sense for you to get the best advice so you can figure out the best solution for your own personal needs. But maybe we start talking about traditional Medicare, because if you just get that card, I think, tell me if I'm saying this wrong, you can kind of see almost any doctor you want that takes Medicare, but then you have a lot of costs associated with that as well.
Right. So I would say there's definitely pros and cons to either direction that you go. So as an independent agent, as a broker, the first thing I would do with a new client or somebody I'm just talking to is to do a needs analysis and kind of figure out what is the best, what are you looking for? What are your typical resources? What's going to be the best fit for you? And then in that needs analysis, that's where you kind of, decide, okay, is this person going to be best suited? And it's really up to them on what, oftentimes what is the best thing for them. Is it going to be a Medicare supplement or is it going to be an Advantage plan? And so to your point, original Medicare is your Part A and your Part B. Part A is typically your hospitalization. Part B is going to be your outpatient visits, like your doctor office visits and things like that. So when you first qualify for Medicare, you if you worked your 40, if you earned your 40 credits worked your 10, I'm stumbling. If you worked your 40 credits or earned your 40 credits, then you have earned your Part A. So all those years you paid into your FICA tax, that is what contributes to your Part A. So most people do not have a Part A that they have to pay for. But then Part B is something that you do pay for, whether you choose a supplement, Medicare supplement, or you choose an Advantage plan. Most people are going to have to pay for that Part B. And that number can change, that amount can change every year. For 2024, that amount is $174.70 a month. So regardless of which direction you go, that's something that you're going to be responsible for. Unless, and we kind of talked about it a minute ago, is, unless you qualify for Medicaid, that would be a whole nother situation where Medicaid may pay for part of that for you. But with the Medicare, so people have to decide, what's the best option, Medicare supplement, which another name, and in the world of Medicare, there's lots of different names. There's lots of letters and plans and all these different things. So supplements, also known as, and a lot of people hear both, Medigap. So what they basically do, so you've got your Part A and your Part B, which is, original Medicare. It typically covers 80% of your medical costs, whether it be, the hospitalization, doctor visits, hospice, all of these different things. So it's going to cover 80%, but that extra 20% is not covered. And that's where, you're either supplementing it, or that's where that name comes from. You're supplementing that 80% with a plan that's going to cover that 20%, or, you're filling those gaps. So that's where those names come from, and they are synonymous. They mean the same thing.
Yeah.
The Advantage plan is a plan. And so it's also called Part C. So it's either Medicare Advantage plans or your Part C. And so often I talk to people and they're like, well, I was told I don't have Part C. I need my Part C. Well, oftentimes they do have their Part C. They just don't realize it because they've always known it as a different name, but they mean the same thing. So then it just kind of comes down to, okay, what is the best fit for each of these people or, individual people? And in the past, I think a lot of people felt like, well, the best thing is a supplement because with the supplement, it's going to cover everything and you're not going to have, you're not going to have to pay copays and things like that. So that's true. And depending on the supplement that you go with. So if you choose a supplement, it's going to fill those gaps. So if you have, you're going to pay a monthly premium for the supplement or the Medigap plan, and then basically when you go to the doctor or the hospital or whatever it is you're using that for, then it's gonna take care of that for you. There are nowadays, or I guess since 2020. Probably the most popular plans with the supplements are the Plan G and the Plan N. The Plan G and the Plan N, you do still have to pay a Part B deductible. And that number is another number that changes from year to year. This year, it's $240. So once you pay, so once you pay your Part B deductible, then basically you're not going to have any copays, depending on the plan you choose. So with the Plan G, that's how it's going to work. Plan N is a little different. You would have you pay your Part B deductible, but then you have a few copays. It could be for the emergency room or for doctor visits and things like that. But the cost of the plans is going to vary depending on which plan that you choose. So since the Plan G doesn't require copays, it's going to be a little more expensive than the Plan N. And with the supplements, you're going to have a monthly premium versus the Advantage plan, Part C, where you're not going to have a monthly premium mostly. There are some out there that do have premiums, but it varies from your area. And here in Florida, I would say most people can choose a plan without a premium and have a very, very good plan.
So I guess a couple of observations is number one, I guess that amount. So A is kind of included as long as we've earned enough work credits, but B is, I guess most of us think of that as the amount that gets deducted from our Social Security check if we're receiving benefits, right? That's where that amount comes out. So you're paying that no matter what.
That's right.
I guess theoretically, but then I've heard Joe Steckler, our president and founder, has talked a lot about he really likes traditional Medicare, and he says it's particularly good if you're moving around the country. Maybe you travel a lot, or maybe you're a snowbird and you have doctors up here, and then you come back to Florida and you have doctors down here, and you don't really have those challenges about having to stay in network or things like that. Is that as valid a thought process as it used to be? Do most Medicare Advantage plans put you into a network, so you're needing to stay within that to get the best benefits?
So that's a great question. And so there are different schools of thought on that. And traditionally, people have always thought of the supplements as being probably maybe the better option than the Advantage plans. And there's definitely, I would say lots of financial advisors, and there's there's agents out there that would say, yes, this is going to be your best option. But to me, it really depends on each person's situation. But to the travel question, definitely if you are a traveler, a snowbird, the supplements are nice because you can use them wherever you want and you don't have to worry about a network. So that is a huge advantage that people do like. But the Advantage plans today, there's different types. There's PPOs and there's HMOs. An HMO is not going to be a good fit for somebody. Medicare Advantage plan HMO is not going to be a good fit for somebody that travels or somebody that's a snowbird, because there is that network and you're not going to be able to use a doctor, have a set of doctors in New York and a set of doctors here in Florida. But a PPO can still work very well. And there's lots of really great PPOs out there. And so with a PPO, preferred provider organization, there oftentimes plans have networks all over. Yeah. And these types of plans allow you to go out of the network. And there's even plans out there now that allow you to go out of the network and not even pay more than what you would pay in network. And so I guess my point in all of that is it's getting easier and it's getting more common to choose Advantage plans over supplements. And And it's never my job to say one is better than the other. I was in an appointment yesterday and the person came in, they was like, I just came from this financial planning seminar. And he said, the financial planner said, stay away from Advantage plans. I don't agree with that because Advantage plans can still have a very good part, play a good part in many people's options as far as making choices, because supplements aren't going to work in everybody's budget. And even if they do work in your budget, sometimes, why do you, because you're going to pay you're going to pay a monthly premium. And some people, especially nowadays with inflation, I mean, when people start figuring, I have people come in a lot that say, I want a supplement, that's what I want. And then we start looking at the numbers and we're like, wow, I'm going to spend this much money a month versus this one's not going to cost me anything a month.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing it more and more. And it's a trend nationwide, not just in my office, where people are choosing the Advantage plans. And that brings me to another point. Some of the advantages of the Advantage plans are the extra benefits that you get that you don't get with Original Medicare. So Original Medicare, like we talked about, is the Part A and the Part B, which is going to be your medical, but it does not cover prescription drugs, which is your Part D, another letter. And it doesn't cover your dental, your hearing, or your vision. And that's another thing that Advantage plans, it's something that a lot of people like. They like to know that they can go to the dentist, get their couple cleanings a year, and do, get good glasses and get their eye exam. So it does offer some extra benefits. And another big one that's there's a couple other things that you don't get with Original Medicare, and that is something called over-the-counter benefit. Many, and not every, but many Medicare Advantage plans offer that. And that's things that you might allow, a lot of companies will give you money to order, things that you might get at a drugstore, like fish oil or Depends or lots of different things that you can get. And so a lot of people enjoy that benefit. And then also they get a gym benefit oftentimes, and a lot of people like that. So those are all things that you're going to be paying separately, kind of a la carte, if you go the supplemental route. Now, and I'm not trying to sway anyone from the supplement, but I'm just saying they both have their place, and everybody's got their different, it just comes down to what is most important to people. So they both have their pros and cons.
So if we go back to the traditional Medicare, which we're talking about as Part A and B, and we get a Medicare supplement, we're going down that road for just a moment. One of the things that you pointed out, and I think it's important and help me get this straight, is that doesn't mean my prescription drugs are covered. So I would have to think about something separate to help me with my prescription drugs, which you said is Part D. And I want to remind you, viewer, we did a show sometime back, Vicki, called the ABCs or something very similar of Medicare, because there are so many letters involved with this, it's hard to keep up with. But I do remember Part D is, because you said it also in the show, is your prescription. But technically, if you're under A and B traditional Medicare and you bought a supplement, you still have to make sure you have some thought about your prescriptions, right?
You do, because they absolutely are not covered with Original Medicare. So you do. I highly recommend to anyone that's just just getting their Medicare to definitely go with a prescription drug plan. And a lot of people decide, well, hopefully nobody that's talking to me chooses not to go that direction, because they're like, well, I'm really healthy, I don't take any medication, so why do I want to pay for a plan?
Right.
Well, if you don't pay for a plan, right, when you first age in, then you're going to end up with a penalty. And unfortunately, I run into a lot of people that have what's called a Part D penalty. Wow. So you don't want to be in that situation, because maybe you're super healthy now and you take nothing but maybe some supplements here and there. But we also have to look down the road. What's our 10-year down the road, 20-year down the road selves going to look like? Am I going to need medication? So you don't want to be a person that ends up without a prescription drug plan. So yes, so the supplements do not include them, and people can purchase them separately, and most of them do. And there are some plans out there that actually have a 0 monthly premium. So just because you have to get a prescription, or just when you're getting a prescription drug plan, depending on what medications you take, I have this little handy dandy, I have a program where I can plug in people's medications, and it's going to tell me what is your best option, what plan's going to work the best for you, what is your monthly, monthly cost going to be with your prescription. And then it'll tell me, okay, this plan is going to cost this much, this plan is going to cost this much. So based on your medications, I can kind of help guide you to the best option. Sometimes, if you take nothing, then why not go with that zero premium plan? Why,
Yeah.
or if you take a lot of expensive medications, you may be better off with a plan that does have a monthly premium, because oftentimes then those copays will be lower and maybe your deductible is going to be lower. So it just depends. So like I said from the very beginning, everybody's situation is their own. And so that's why it's so important to do kind of a needs analysis and get all that information figured out.
So a lot of times when you see the, let's jump back over to the Medicare Advantage plan side. So a lot of times when you see these commercials of these national level commercials, they say, oh, we are going to help you. You're going to get some benefits. And yeah, you mentioned several of them. There might be a vision benefit, might be some kind of a dental benefit, might be some kind of, I would call it's not cash back. That's how I think of it. But they say, we're going to give you a card that you can go use at, the drugstore and get some of those items that you're talking about. Now, when you look at those plans, do they typically cover your prescriptions to some level too? Is that all part of a Medicare Advantage plan?
Yes, so that is an advantage of the Advantage plan, is that, and it depends, because again, everyone's situation is different, but most Advantage plans have the Part D part as part of the plan.
Okay.
So then you don't have to get a separate plan, and so that's a great thing. But I will just say there are some people, and typically veterans, oftentimes veterans, that maybe get their medications through the VA.
Right.
So it's not, they do not need to have the prescription drug coverage. So they may choose a plan that does not include it. Or I do run into people that, years ago didn't get the Part D, so they have a big penalty. So they have just chosen they don't want to pay that penalty. So they might prefer a plan that doesn't have the coverage. So, luckily I don't run into that as much, but I do run into that. So yes, but for the most part, most people, when they go that direction with the Medicare Advantage plan, they're going to have their Part D. And oftentimes when you have, when you're choosing between the supplement and the separate prescription drug plan, or the Advantage plan that includes the prescription drug plan, oftentimes you're going to pay less for your medications when it's in the drug plan, it's in the Advantage plan, than when it's a standalone drug plan.
Oh, wow.
And you're seeing, and there's different reasons for it, but the cost of those, you're seeing just independent companies are choosing not to offer just prescription drug plans versus having them as part of their Advantage plans, because it's getting more and more expensive to operate them. So therefore, that's why those are going up in price versus they're more, they tend to be more affordable when they're within an Advantage plan. So if you're someone that has a lot of expensive medications, that's another advantage to being on the Advantage plan, is you typically are going to save money with your prescription when it's part of the Advantage plan.
Right. One of the things as we're talking through this, probably if you zoom out for a minute, one of the things you really get a sense for is the complexity of all the nuances that come into play for you trying to figure out what's your best move. And, we talk a lot in the helping seniors world. We say, we call this idea of making an aging plan, getting your ducks in a row. And another thing that we say next to it is we say, don't try this on your own. There's so much good help, because I can imagine somebody responding to an 800 number. You're only going to hear about whatever that 800 number has to offer you. Maybe it's good, but maybe it's not. And certainly not going to let you really take a full view of the marketplace and everything. And then, to be honest, I'm not even sure most of us would know 100% the right questions to ask. Like, even if we said, okay, we want to look at everything out there, we may not even know what it is that we should be asking to make sure it's in our best interest. And I've used this analogy before: going on the internet and starting some kind of a search to figure things out oftentimes can make you even more confused than you started with. So I always advocate for why wouldn't we take advantage of somebody who is an independent, licensed Medicare insurance agent to sit down, because you would know the questions that we need to be thinking about as we help you navigate based on our situation. Then you're able to help us navigate by finding the plan that really is that best cost benefit analysis.
Yeah, I totally agree. I have had so many situations where people, and even often, I've run into it even when they've been a client of mine, and I see that, something has changed, and they're like, well, they called me on the phone and it was hard to get, they just made everything sound so good. and not realizing, well, your doctor's not covered or this or that. And I had a client actually call me yesterday, and he's like, I'm just getting all these phone calls. And he said, I mean, constantly, like 10 calls a day. What should I do? And I said, well, even I get some of these phone calls. I mean, for different things. I said, they're just telemarketing calls. I mean, I hope that you trust, which he does, but trust that I am telling you, offering you and giving you all the best options out there. I know your situation. So I know the plan that you're on is the best value for you at this moment. But he's like, well, but they're offering me like $200 a month for food. And I said, well, that's kind of like a bait and switch. I mean, they are enticing you, and you're going to see these commercials as well, but they're enticing you to let you know you have all these great benefits, but a lot of people don't qualify for those benefits.
Right.
Those benefits are going to be for people that have they're dual, meaning Medicare and Medicaid. So people that fall into that category oftentimes do qualify for those benefits, but not everybody.
But that's an area that you're also equipped when somebody has that as a possibility. You're going to be able to look and see that as well. Vicki, I wanted to ask you if somebody is having the idea that they maybe want to give you a call and follow up and get some advice about their own particular situation. How do they reach you? What's the best way to do that?
So the best way to reach me, my phone number is 321-272-0218. That is my office phone number. I call people back within 24 hours, and most often it's the same day. I return a call, or the office returns a call. And again, it's 321-272-0218.
Yeah, well, thank you, Vicki Moore with More Insurance Solutions, for sharing some of your expertise. There are a lot of great shows that we've done together. Like I said, the alphabet of Medicare is one good one. But what we really wanted to do today was to try to explain and get to a little bit of the difference between traditional Medicare and Medicaid, Medicare Advantage plans, because this is really an area where your expertise can lead and guide us to the best solutions. I want to thank you for sharing with us today, and thank you, viewer, for joining us on Helping Seniors Television. We'll see you on the next episode very soon.
I'm Joe Steckler. Thank you for joining our program today. I'd like to remind you that our senior information line is available to you at 321-473-7770. There you can get help and direction that could be helpful for your specific situation or circumstances. The work of helping seniors is very important, but we can't do it alone. That is why our sponsors here in Brevard County are so important. I'd like to thank our many area sponsors, businesses, and medical providers who support the mission of helping seniors that help us carry the cost of our media efforts. If you'd like to join us either as a business partner or simply donate as an individual, we welcome your call at 321-473-7770. You are always welcome to visit our website at www.helpingseniorsofbrevard.org. Thanks so much for your help. It does make a difference.